Okie dokie, let's get started. So yesterday we were doing this drawing, and we had got sort of most of the base layer of the clothing done, and so now we've got to sort out the shoes. Not going to do any gloves, shoes, clothing details, and any accessories. So I'll start with the shoes. Let's figure that one out. Like, I may not talk that much because, thinking and all of that. And yesterday I was in the flow, whereas now I need to get back into that. Okie dokie. So shoes. I mean, if we think about Gali herself, pretty chunky on the shoe side of things. So if you give me a moment, I will have a look on Google Images, and then bring that in when I find a good one. Possibly. So I want boots. Sorry, this part's probably boring for anyone watching, but that's that. She wouldn't have heels because, as we can see, she doesn't have heels, so there would be no point in giving them to her. Basically what I'm searching is chunky female boots. It's a possibility, maybe. Maybe not though. I mean, like, a lot of what's coming up are Doc Martens, and frankly Doc Martens would probably do the job quite nicely. So maybe we'll just go with some Doc Martens, eh? And then the question of colour, we'll go with black, because black suits, and at the moment, if we add more blue, it won't look right. I'm just trying to find a image which is sort of the right angle. So that's the thing. One mistake I made when I was beginning to draw, I was like, no, I need to come up with this all from my own brain. That is silly. If you have a tool available to you, use it. Use it as much as you can. That's just sort of common sense, really. Okay, we'll copy that image, we'll put it in. Here we are. This is the one I found. There we go. I'll have to pull that up above the rest of it though. There we go. So yeah, we'll be going with those shoes. So nothing too fancy, really. And we've got that. There we go. Yeah. So it's sort of just going to be going inwards a bit and then out, and sort of just coming around. The peak of the boot sort of happens off to the side a bit. Maybe they can probably round that off some more. We'll figure that one out. But you can see that peak, it's not quite bang in the middle per se. Actually, no, that's wrong. No, the peak isn't on that side. The peak is more on the other side. There we are. Because that makes sense, because the peak would be sort of where the big toe is. When I say peak, I'm just meaning basically the point at which it's furthest out from the foot. So then if we look here, we've got sort of these bits kind of going in a bit. Now I can kind of ignore the size and shape of the foot at this point because that wasn't an overly important factor, and I'll be covering it up anyway. So we have the that part of the boot sort of coming in around about there, getting sort of a nice big section at the front, and then sort of tapering off and coming in to about there. And then we've also got coming from here, just sort of where that other section is. I mean, I don't have to be this detailed on this stuff, but it's not a bad idea. Yeah. And get that line up to there. So now we can select all of that. We can do that and keep the original image and flip that over to there. And then we can bring this up like so. And as long as that's covering those the feet, that's all good. So now we can and just select a little bit more. Yeah. There we go. It might go a little bit outside the lines, but I'm not too concerned about that. So we hop down to there. Let's get the color off of that. Go. Oh, right, whoops. There we go. No, we want that darker still. Yeah. So I think I mentioned yesterday, when you've got something black, just throw in a hint of white, a hint of blue. Makes it a little bit more, just a bit nicer on the eyes. So that's that. That's that. That's that. So that's roughly what our character's going to look like. And I could put the soul on, but for the moment I won't. So what we're going to do now is sort of detailing stuff. So what I'm going to start with is this section here around the neck. I could probably adjust the lips a bit, but we'll leave it for now. Question is, do I just do it straight onto it or not? I'm going to do it straight onto it, and you'll see what I mean. We'll put the details sort of straight on and we'll see how that goes. I may decide otherwise at some point. Where's my mouse? Yeah. So what I'm using is just a pencil kind of thing, and so when I do that, it erases it away, but it leaves it sort of a little bit, it's not like fully erased, so we can do sort of detailing and stuff that makes it almost translucent. However, I might use something else. Do I use this one instead? No, we'll use the pencil. At some point I really need to tidy up that line. Do I need to? No, not really. So here we need to think about sort of the general shape of what this piece is looking like. So if we add in something here, we know that it is sort of no, not quite. It's, yeah. Now I'm only doing it on one side because I'll just do it on one side, and then we'll just sort of copy it over to the other side. It won't just be straight up copy. This time it'll be done with sort of done by eye, so I'll sort of copy the stuff over and I'll try to do the best I can. So let's start with this. No, we want pencil. There we are. So I'm thinking, got this middle part. Now I'm thinking mostly sort of watery type patterns. I'll just have to adjust those colors later on. And behind, because as you can see some of the hair's coming through, which obviously it wouldn't be the hair necessarily tucked in there, but that's alright. There's sort of more wave type patterns. And that's the thing, when you're making these patterns, it doesn't actually matter so much if they're a real pattern or anything. What matters is that it fits what you're trying to create. What I might also do actually, because the Toa had a writing system, well the Bionicle had a writing system, and so bringing that in, even though this is a character that would exist in the real world, that's fine. So we've got this, let's try to find a better image, and that'll do the job. Copy image. Yeah. Now we'll bring that one in. We can sort of we're going to make that smaller. Let's say 25%. Don't keep the original image. There we go. And we'll bring this up above everything else. Yeah. So we can look at what the one is for G, because just Gali. So we can sort of that's that part, and then we've got a line down the middle, and then a line there. Now you'll notice sort of the line coming down I've had sort of straight, whereas, well, a little bit skewed but straight, whereas the other one is very much on an angle, that sort of perspective drawing. Generally speaking, well, with 2-point perspective and 1-point perspective, the up and down are all the same. It is just normal up and down, and you'll notice if you look down a street, all the up and down is pretty much up and down. Unless, of course, you look up at a really tall building and then you're looking at like 3-point perspective, which is something else entirely. So we've got that. And then we can sort of bring stuff around. And again, just having all those sort of swooping, swirling patterns that kind of remind you of the ocean. And I'm just putting dots in sort of every sort of here and there, just, well, really just for the sake of it, because I think it looks nice. That's the thing, when you're drawing, what you think looks nice is correct, because ultimately, when it comes to selling it to someone, they will decide if they like it, and it doesn't really matter whether you've designed it perfectly for them or anything. They will make their decision on whether they like it. And I might just cover that over a little bit more just to make it fit with the rest of it. So we've now got sort of this pattern going on, and as I said yesterday, doing this pattern now like this, it means that it's easier for me when it comes time to actually create the sort of a larger 3D sort of properly posed character, because I can already see where it's all going to go. Now I've flipped this around just because then I can make sure I'm getting sort of the same kind of swoops and shapes and stuff. It will be a little bit off, but again, this is the concept and doesn't need to be necessarily perfect to this stuff. So looking at something like that, goes a bit flat. We've got that. Oh, we can get rid of the sloping curve lines. And go outwards like that. And because I'm feathering these lines a bit more, I may have to go over them to sort of untransparentize the lines, as it were. Just because obviously those other lines won't done with transparency. Sorry, just trying to get it right and all that. So we've got that dot there, got that dot around about there, and yeah, as I said, it's not going to be perfect. But we can try our very, very best. No. No. Better. Obviously, if when I'm doing when I do this sort of as a posed character, it's going to be a whole different kettle of fish, because right, so then we go through here. Oh wait, no, it doesn't actually go all the way through. Because when it's a posed character, we're not necessarily going to be seeing it all wrong way. We're not going to see it sort of face on. So it changes that side of things quite a bit. We've got a circle straight down like that. And we've got there. That can be a little bit more obvious. Got that, we've got that. The one thing we're missing is that, which comes down like that, and then we've got that and that. There we go. And so now we've got sort of that detailing. It makes it look a little bit transparent, and obviously I could play around with it more. If I were doing detail on here, I could just sort of, because of how small it is, that just sort of indicates there's something, some sort of patterning, and all I'm just doing is just sort of going over it a little bit. And so then when we zoom out, we can turn that off now, there is sort of that detailing on there, and some of it's more obvious than the rest, but that gives us sort of that nice detailing. Yeah, and so now we can, what do we want to go back to? I'm thinking I might go back to the top. So here we can sort of put in maybe some edging or something, even just some stitching even. What I'll do is I'll take sort of this goldy color, I'll go a little bit for the darker option, yeah. Maybe not, maybe over there. We'll go with that and maybe make it a little bit darker just to fit with the rest of the colors. And now what we can do is we can sort of put some detailing in. Now again, I could use that pencil if I wanted to make it look sort of rough. I could use the oil paint if I want to have it looking sort of blending. So for example, this, I go like that, and it all sort of blends in, and I get a color that sort of mixes with what's already there. And the more I go over it, the more it becomes the color it originally was supposed to be. But I want it sort of coming out quite brightly, but I also want it to be a set, sort of a set set width, all that. So if I were using the pen, it'd be different widths all the way along, and I do actually want it to be quite stabilized. So for example here, we can do that. Now that would be sort of edging, and we could always have sort of some sort of geometric pattern on there, maybe like that, because the Bionicles are robots after all. But it's not feeling quite right. Maybe cuffs. We can lock the opacity again. I don't know, it's just not. It does add detail, but I don't think it's the right color. So maybe we'll go with sort of more the bluish, the lighter blue. See how that works with it. Trial and error and all of that. I think I like that. Yeah, I think I like that more. And then we can sort of do some detailing. We could actually. No, that's not what I want. That's what I want. What we can do is we can actually maybe throw in these letters. Yes. So anyone who's watched Bionicle will know Now I'm just going to do the entire phrase sort of up from like separate, because then I can transform it and everything into place. The perks of using a computer. Obviously, if you weren't using a computer, you would need to I would still recommend writing it down first, or like having it put down first, just because then you know what it is you're going to be doing, and then sort of you just have to do it in your head how it would readjust. So let's view the grid. So let's go with size 5, that, and that will allow me to do, wait, let's, sorry. So this is the layer we're wanting, but we'll get rid of that and we'll instead use a vector layer, and you'll see why in a moment. So let's say we're going to that size. Yeah. I may need to make that alphabet a bit bigger. Let's go 200. Yeah, that'll do. There we go. So now we can do this vector one. So 1, 2, 3. So Bionicle stuff. Like there was the essentially catchphrase, as it were, which was unity, duty, and destiny. And we can see every single one of these is based on a circle. So we have unity, which is UNITY, 5 letters, so we'll have 5 circles. So that's unity, then there's duty, which is 4, and then destiny, which will be a little bit bigger. Those were like the guiding tenets of the Bionicles. So destiny, DESTINY, so that's 7. Unity, duty, and destiny. So now we go into the straight line. So U is a cross with a dot on the top, and you'll see why I'm using a vector layer soon. U. Yeah. Unity, UN. That's just a cross this way. I, line straight down. IT, makes sense that would be T, and Y is that. Now this is why I'm using a vector layer. I can erase according to the vectors, and then that keeps it within those circles. Now I could have just selected the area within inside the circles, but I find this is a little bit nicer. So there's unity. Then we have duty, so D. Sorry. D. Is that a dot? Or? Sorry, I'm just going to try and find a better quality image for that alphabet. We want a larger size. Yeah, maybe that's better. Copy image. There we are, that's a little bit better. And it does match because you... No. Oh, whoops, I looked at V. That's why. And so, here's another reason why the vector layer is handy. I can now go in and just do that. There we are. Good. there we are. So D is a straight line down the middle. We have that. E is lines like that. S, 2 dots there. Oh, wait a minute. I should be using size 10 for the dots. Just makes it a bit more obvious. S. Whoopsies, I was doing destiny, wasn't I? So we still have D to start with, but then we have duty, which is the U, which is the same as that one over there. Duty, so that's T there, and Y, which is that one. And then again, we just erase around the edges where we need to. So that's duty and then destiny. So I'll leave the dots to last just because they're a different size. Destiny, S, so that's the 2 dots. T, I, N is across that way, and then the Y. And then we put in the dots, so duty, we have S, then I, and then N. And that's that. So, and you'll see why I'm doing this in just a moment. So now we can get rid of the grid and we can stop snapping to the grid. What I can do, I can duplicate this, I'll keep it there, but I'll just, then I rasterize, so it's just easier to transform and stuff at this point, I find. So what we can do is we can go Control T, not keeping the original, actually, no, actually what I'll do is I'll get these all into a nice line. Yeah, it won't be perfect, but it'll be close enough. As long as I don't really notice that there's any difference between them, and I can eyeball it accordingly, that's fine. So Unity, Duty, and Destiny. Now we do rectangle because that makes this next bit easier. So I'm going to move this over to here, then I'm going to T, make that a little bit smaller, still a bit smaller, yep, that'll work. Yeah, and then we keep the selection the same, and then we can do a really fun trick, a mesh transformation. Alright, we don't want too many parts that way. Probably want more this way though. Yeah, there we go. So put that like that, go like that. So I'm just doing sort of one side first. And having this detailing here actually helps a great deal because it shows sort of how it all curves together. Now these actually should be closer together, especially just around there, and then it starts stretching out over there. And again, so we'll put that one there. And this is basically just going to go like that, sort of giving us that thing. Then on here, it may go a little bit bigger. No, it's not changing in that direction, so no. It's like that. There we are. And so now we have that detailing along the shirt. And that sort of suggests who, well, it harkens back to the sort of where this character comes from. And now what I can do is I can go Control T, keep the original image, we'll flip it that way, and then we'll bring it over to here and have it be the same. So we've got that. I think I'm happy leaving that detailing there like that. I will use this color for the seams, however. So I've got sort of, I know it possibly makes it look really like rough and not like well made necessarily. Actually, that's a good point. No, the seams should be darker because then it's less noticeable. So we go with that, and we go a shade darker. Then we can go, yeah, that's just noticeable. So, yeah. There we are. There's that seam, and we can have sort of that seam on the inside, and then we kind of show that folding. Yeah. Now I'm entirely not sure if the way I'm doing these seams is actually correct, but it looks right, so I will do it this way. That's one thing I will note. So I teach, that's what I get paid to do. I certainly don't get paid to do this stuff. But with teaching, always admit if you don't know something. Like, students realize these things very quickly. So we've got all of that. Do we have a bit of, yeah. To lock the opacity on there. There we go. What? Ah, right, of course. Yeah. So kind of want to come in, showing up. That's weird. Oh, no, I know why, because I'm not actually drawing on the right layer. That's why. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, and we've got that, and that's just sort of to roughly indicate those side seams, just to show that it does actually have a side seam. So we've got that. I mean, the pants we need to put some detailing on. So if these are going to be jeans, we're probably going to have, so I'll select that, and again we'll go a touch darker. This I'll do with the pen, because this is a little bit more sort of finicky, but we'll go a bit larger. We'll go like that, and we've got sort of that with then like that. Not quite actually. And so then we've got sort of the button there, which that we'll be able to put in a different color. Let's say something a little bit. Let's go with something a bit golden, shall we? Yeah, sort of that a little bit more towards the gold. We'll go with something like that. Although, realistically, actually, it's going to be sort of a silvery kind of, just sort of steel kind of color. It also means that in here we should probably put that same color in. Yeah. So that's that. I will just put in this color at each of these points, so as to remind me when it comes to actually doing it, we've got sort of metal parts holding it all together, metal loops. And as I've said before, this is just very, very rough. Go. Then we've got that. The shoes will need some sort of laces. Where were the shoes? Yeah, that was the shoes. Now we're going to make that a bit smaller. No. Sorry. I want the shoes to be smaller. No, not negative. There we are. Just need to bring that down a bit. Let's do that so that we can get the black near what we're wanting. Go. So we can bring in this color a bit. Here I will use the paintbrush. Just because it doesn't need to be overly obvious. So that's the sole done, and we'll do, might as well do the same on the other side now. Might have been an idea to go a bit darker, but that's alright for now. There we are. And then we want to put in those details. Now this will actually go on the line art layer. Looking at here we are. Then we have that and that, with laces coming out from there. I'd do the laces a little bit differently if it were the actual painting, of course. select that and select that, and we can sort of just fill that in with a bit of black. Yeah. I'm tempted to put shading in, but we're not going to. We're not going to. However, one thing we can do is we can put in the laces. Now here, we want to use the marker again, nice and small. We'll go with that. Not laces, sorry, the stitching for the actual boot itself. Just because that is something to note, especially if you end up doing the boot quite close up. It does become an important factor to consider. So those are there, then we can go back to doing the pen work, to the actual shoe itself. Alright. Sort of like that. Like, yeah, we have the circle, just sort of that top edge of the circle there. We go on up to there, up to there. I must say this music sounds like a remixing of the Overwatch music, which I'm fairly sure is not copyright free, but the video said that this was all copyright free, so it better be copyright free music. Go. So I can get rid of these shoes. Image. So we've now got sort of roughly what she's going to look like. I am going to tweak the face a little bit. So we need to go to the face lines, which are going to be here. Yep, there we go. So make this a little bit more rounded. And we'll actually go back to the regular eraser, put it a little bit smaller. Yeah. And we'll just fill in that section a bit better, the actual nose. And then the mouth, I think that top lip's a little bit much. So we can instead I mean, it's still a bit much, but it's not unrealistic. And we've got the chin, that's alright. Do we want to round it a bit? Nah. Having that strong chin and strong jawline, I mean, it fits with sort of her mask kind of look that she's got. So we do want those strong sort of features. Can put a bit of silver onto here as well, where the earrings are. And because I've overlaid this particular section with blue, that's going to do that, but I will just erase that over that bit. Yeah. And then what we just want to do, we want to take that, and I'll use the marker this time. Oops. We want to just overlay that here. Like so. Just so that that stuff, it's not looking like we're looking through at the hair even though that is technically what's happening. There we go. That's that. I will just select the mouths. That was useless. So tool. And we'll take that color, but we'll make it a mite darker. And we'll fill that in. Still a bit darker still. There we go. And that sort of gives us that. So that's that. Do we need any more detailing anywhere else? Just tossing up. If I put a hint of detail on that neck piece, a very, very, very small hint, but a hint nonetheless. Okay, let's see how that looks. If we do that there, do that there, that there. Now if we zoom out, I think I do like it. Or maybe not. Yeah, no, not quite. Yeah, no, don't quite like it. That's alright. Now the question is, does she have anything on her? Does she? We want to have something that sort of draws on draws on sort of the tools that she uses, the sort of axe bladey kind of things. Would they be called a weapon instead of a tool? Water hooks were the first one she had, which then upgraded to aqua axes. So we want Gali aqua axe. So yeah, just Google imaging it. It's not very big, but oh well, it'll do. Let's go 300 size. So this is essentially the thing that I'm wanting to somehow connect to. I mean, I could have it as her earrings. It's always an option. That just seems too easy. Sorry, just thinking, as I do. Think. I'm just tossing up if she even needs anything else. I think that's actually enough. And what I can do is I can just erase some of this just so that we don't have actually redo. Actually I'll just duplicate these two. I'll create a folder to put them in, duplicate the folder, yeah, and then within here what I can do is I can just sort of erase that a bit, erase that, just so that we're not getting that overlay kind of thing. Actually we'll duplicate that as well and throw that in there, because then we can get rid of those lines. Odd. Seems like those lines are actually... Oh wait, of course. That's why. Get rid of that one. And then you're overlaying on that, so you can get rid of that overlay as well. Go, there we go. So I think that's probably good for just the concept side of things. So what I'll do is I'll just give it a nice background. No, I want to keep that. Throw that away. That one can go away. That can go away. So now what we've got left is the character herself. And that should be everything that's, yep. I'm just gonna adjust her a little bit just to make her a bit bigger, make her sort of fill the screen, and then what we can do once it finishes is we can go with the image material for actually color pattern background. There we go, that's what we want. Now she's liable to be on a beach. Do I have any of the beach ones already loaded in? No. I'd like that one. So it's just going to get me to download it all. But so basically the idea for what I'll do for the next one is I'm going to think about how we could do an actual illustration with her. Possibly think about different outfits if it suits the different illustration. It depends. And then oh, I think that's now ready to go. Yep, there we go. So we've got her there, good, and that works. So yeah, that's sort of her, and yes, very narrow waist, but there's a point to that. She's wearing a corset, all of that, and also fits with the character. But yeah, next time I will look at how to sort of take this to the next step. I do hope you enjoyed it, and do come along and watch next time.